Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show?
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey.
Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Joey Harris, and we're broadcasting from makeshift studios in the shadow of South Central Virginia. Follow the show on Twitter and Blue Sky at Cup of Joe Pod. Email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. We also have patreon.com/babykangaroomedia for bonus episodes of the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show, the Joey Harris Super Show, the Green Room, Book Club Baristas, and so much more. That's just $5 a month. For hours of extra content. There's also a lot of free stuff on there if you want to just become a free patron. I would really appreciate it. Again, that's at patreon.com/babykangaroomedia. If you would like to just support the show, you can at paypal.me/cupofjoepod. I am also on Cash App and Venmo at the Joey Harris. And folks, back again as today we take a look at Takeover The End from NXT. NXT Takeover The End was shown on the WWE Network on June the 8th, 2016 from Full Sail University in Winter Park, Florida. There were 400 plus in attendance. We start out with our intro previewing what we will see tonight. Tom Phillips and Corey Graves are going to call the action and welcome us to Takeover. Ty Dillinger versus Andrade Cien Almas. The bell rings and they circle each other. A Let's Go Ty chant goes out. They lock up. They exchange moves and counters. Dillinger definitely has the crowd behind him. Dillinger with a wrist lock. Andrade comes back with a drop kick. Dillinger rolls out to regroup, back and forth. Dillinger with a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker for a 1 count. Dillinger puts Andrade on the top rope. Andrade fights off and hits a double moonsault for a 2 count. Dillinger with a big super kick for a 2 count. They trade blows. Andrade with double knees to get the pin. That was a quick, intense match to get us started. Flashback to what led to the next match, NXT Tag Team Championship match, American Alpha, Chad Gable and Jason Jordan versus the Revival, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder. Revival out first, American Alpha out to a great ovation. Gable and Dawson start, they have a pulling contest. Wilder tagged in, he beats on Gable as the Gable chant goes out. Wilder with a wrist lock. Dawson tagged back in and continues the beatdown. Back and forth. Gable comes back with a nice looking arm drag. Jordan comes in and hits a big drop kick. He unloads on everyone and gets a 2 count. Jordan with an armbar on Dawson. All 4 men are in now. They trade blows. American Alpha with stereo leg locks. The Revival get to the ropes. Jordan with a takedown of Wilder. Gable tagged in and got a 2 count. Dawson tagged in. He cleans house. American Alpha comes back. They cleared the ring. Dawson hits a stun gun for a close 2 count. Dawson with an armbar on Gable hits a scoop slam. Gable comes back. Dawson with a spine buster for a 2 count. Wilder tagged in and he and Dawson hit a gut buster for a 2 count. Wilder with an armbar. He drives a shoulder into Gable. Gable comes back with an armbar. Wilder gets to the ropes and Gable forces them both to the outside. Dawson tagged in and cut Gable off. The Revival with a guillotine leg drop for a 2 count. Gable tries to come back. Wilder and Jordan tagged in. Jordan unloads on the Revival. He gets a 2 count on Wilder. Wilder drop holds Jordan into a turnbuckle. He gets a 2 count. Dawson tagged in and hit a series of forearms. Gable tagged in and hit a combination dropkick German suplex for a 2 count. Gable gets an ankle lock on. Dawson comes back after an uppercut by Wilder to get a 2 count. Wilder tagged in. Revival goes to do a bulldog off the top rope, but Gable reverses the momentum and slams Dawson down. Wilder has to break up the pin attempt. Wilder and Jordan tagged in. Revival counter a grand amplitude attempt into the Shatter Machine to get the pin and once again become the NXT Tag Team Champions. They celebrate after the match. American Alpha gets attacked by 2 large men after the match. Paul Ellering comes out. The crowd chants, "Who are you?" Ellering and the 2 men then leave. Asuka is shown in the back. Bayley comes up and wishes her luck. Flashback to what led to the next match. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Austin Aries. Aries out first. He is looking very confident. His midsection is taped up. Nakamura out to a fantastic ovation. It takes a while to get started. Dueling chants go out. They battle for position. They drive to the ropes and break. Aries with a wrist lock. They have moves, reversals, and avoid attacks. Another lock up and break. Aries with a drop kick. Nakamura avoids a front chancery. He hits a series of knees. He gets a snap mare on. Nakamura kicks at Aries as he backs away and hits good vibrations in the corner. He does it twice more and gets caught by Aries, who works on Nakamura's legs. He drives Nakamura down in the corner. He hits a second rope elbow drop for a 1 count. Aries with a rear chin lock. Nakamura comes back. Aries with a knee to the midsection. Aries with a senton, but Nakamura gets his knees up. Aries with a back elbow hits the top rope elbow for a 2 count. Aries attacks Nakamura and goes back to the chin lock. He works on Nakamura's leg. Nakamura comes back with an enziguri. Back and forth. Nakamura with a series of leg strikes to Aries. He gets a 2 count. Aries fights back. Nakamura avoids a rolling elbow. Aries goes for a last chancery. He hits the elbow and it knocks Nakamura out. Aries hits a suicide dive to the outside. He gets a close 2 count. Nakamura gets the triangle on, but Aries gets to the ropes. Nakamura with the front slam. Nakamura goes for a strike. Aries catches him and gets the last chancery on. Nakamura fights it. He finally gets to the ropes. They trade kicks and Aries with a Hurricane Rana and a drop kick. He misses the 450 but rolls through. Back and forth. They trade shots on the apron. Nakamura hits an enziguri. Aries responds with a Death Valley driver on the apron. The referee counts Nakamura. Aries goes for another dive. Nakamura moves and Aries hits the guardrail. He gets back in. Nakamura hits the Kinshasa. He hits the reverse exploder and another Kinshasa to get the pin. That was a great match. Nakamura celebrates with the crowd. Samoa Joe is shown arriving. Flashback to what led to the next match, NXT Women's Championship match, Asuka versus Nia Jax. Jax out first to a chorus of boos. Asuka out to a great ovation. Introductions are made and the belt is presented. The bell rings. They battle for position. Asuka avoids a series of shots. Jax launches Asuka across the ring. She drives her into the turnbuckle. She beats on Asuka in the corner. Jax powers out of a submission hold. Jax with a backbreaker for a 2 count. Jax beats and punishes Asuka on the ropes. She only breaks before the 5 count before resuming. Jax with a delayed backbreaker to Asuka. Asuka fighting to get out and gets Jax into a guillotine choke. Jax suplexes her way out for a 2 count. Asuka with the head scissors. Jax avoids the armbar, only for Asuka to get a triangle choke on. Jax hits a buckle bomb to break the hold, and then hits a hip attack in the corner. She bends Asuka around the ring post for a 4 count. Jax follows it up with a bear hug. Back and forth. Asuka goes for the knee bar. Jax gets to the second rope to break the hold. Jax plants Asuka, who moves on the leg drop attempt. Asuka comes back with a shot. Asuka with a missile drop kick and a hip attack. She gets a 2 count. Jax comes back with a power bomb. She goes for a cover and Asuka gets the armbar on. Jax powers up as Asuka goes for the Asuka lock. Asuka with a series of strikes to get the pin and retain her title. A medic comes out to check on Jax as Asuka celebrates. Andrea DeMarco interviews William Regal. Bobby Roode is shown arriving, and Regal leaves immediately after. Steel cage match for the NXT Championship. Samoa Joe versus Finn Balor. Flashback to what led to the match and Samoa Joe winning the title at a house show. Neville is shown in the crowd. Balor out first in his demon persona. He is extremely over with the crowd. Joe out looking very confident. He gets in and slams the cage door. The introductions are made and the belt is presented. The bell rings. They circle each other. They swipe at each other. Joe goes for the door and Balor stops him. Balor unloads on Joe. Joe blocks trying to be run into the cage. Balor tries to get out, but Joe stops him. Balor with a corner whip in charge. He chops Joe down. Balor starts to climb, but Joe stops him and runs him into the cage. He does it again, back and forth. Joe with an enziguri in the corner. Joe beats Balor down in the corner. He is brutalizing Balor. He gets a 2 count. Balor starts to fight back, so Joe just launches him into the cage. Balor stops Joe from leaving the cage and hits Joe with a series of punches and forearms. Balor tries to get out, and Joe grabs him by his ankle to stop him. Joe with a German suplex for a 2 count. Joe tries to climb the cage, but Balor stops him. They both crash down off of the cage. Joe gets a 2 count. Back and forth. Balor has Joe between the ropes in the cage and unloads on him. Joe briefly gets the coquina clutch on before Balor breaks out. He hits Joe again and starts to use Joe to climb up the cage. Joe grabs Balor's leg. Balor kicks Joe in the head, but Balor loses his balance and crouches himself on the ropes. Joe comes back with a slam. Balor counters a muscle buster attempt with a sunset flip for a 2 count. They exchange blows. Balor with a Pele kick. Both men down. They both start to climb and chop each other. Balor hits the sling blade off the top rope for a 2 count. He hits a second sling blade. Joe comes back with a senton. He hits a muscle buster for a close 2 count. Balor stunned in the center of the ring. Joe with a series of kicks to Balor. Balor runs Joe into the cage several times and hits another sling blade. He hits a couple of drop kicks to Joe and hits the coup de grace for a 2 count. Joe counters a 1916 attempt into the coquina clutch. Balor fights it. He hits a double stomp. Balor goes up. Joe grabs his leg. Balor pushes him off. Joe grabs Balor by the leg again. Balor over the cage. Joe grabs him and hits the second rope muscle buster to get the pin. Incredible match. The referee checks on both wrestlers. They review what happened. Medic's out to check on Balor. Joe raises the title high as they sign off from Full Sail. Final thoughts. A fantastic show. Well worth your time. You can follow me on Facebook, Threads, and Instagram at TheJoeyHarris. If you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or your preferred podcast app. I would really appreciate it. We can also be found on Spotify and YouTube. Just search for The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show and don't forget to hit subscribe. Thank you for joining me. This is Joey saying so long from the heart of Virginia. We'll talk to you next time.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.